Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the World of Wrestling podcast. Here today to discuss about AEW Dynamite, February 18th, 2026 review. I'm going to be short and sweet to the point. The show had some good points. It had some shit points. I thought the matches, most of them were pretty decent. Others were just fillers that I really didn't care for or give a shit about. Main event with Kenny Omega and Swerve Strickland. Excellent main event. The aftermath of the match was great as well, except for that one spot with the table, with Kenny Omega being driven on his back and possibly his neck by Swerve. I think was kind of a questionable maneuver and very dangerous, especially with Kenny Omega dealing with tons of injuries he's occurred over the last couple of years, and it's kept him out of action for quite a while. I know they're trying to write him off television because he's going to do that gaming thing over in Japan, I think it is, for Street Fighter. But to do that with him, I think was a little too dangerous. And I hope he's okay and he survived through that spot and he didn't suffer an injury of any kind. I kind of think Tony Khan allowing Kenny Omega to go off to do this gaming thing in Japan for Street Fighter, to me, is absolutely ridiculous. I wouldn't have allowed him to do this, especially with a match like this. This match was great. Pay-per-view quality out the fucking wazoo. Definitely a match that could have used some hype build-up going into it. We already have two matches that are guaranteed to occur. We have Jon Moxley and Takeshita for the Continental Championship in a rematch because it was a time limit draw, and now they're making it a no time limit where there has to be a winner. So I like they took advantage of the opportunity to create a story out of that and revisit that match, because that match was actually not that bad in my opinion. It wasn't the best opener, I'd say, for Grand Slam this past Saturday, but at least it was a fairly decent, entertaining matchup that may have been a draw, but it was a very good, it was good quality wrestling between the two of them. But they did that for a specific reason, to give us a pay-per-view match added on to the card, which made sense overall anyway. So I'm okay with the decision they went with at Grand Slam. I was kind of hoping Takeshita was going to win and be the Continental Champion to then further the story between Okada. Now, thankfully, Okada, during this show today, he did mention Takeshita saying that he wasn't a champion, and Okada is a champion. So, I'm looking forward to the Takeshita-Okada revisit to do a round two between these two, and I think these two titles are going to be up for grabs. I think it should be carried over to All In. I think they build this up all the way up until All In and kind of go back and forth, competition over who's the better champion in the Don Callis family. Shit like that I would be cool with, and I hope that's the direction they go with, because I think there's a long story they could build off of that up till All In, and, get something out of that. They might do it a Double or Nothing, which will be fine too if that's the direction they want to go, because maybe they ran out of stuff to really appease people with, so they just say, okay, let's just get to the point here and just get straight to it, since we've dragged this on long enough, which they might do anyway. And it would work going into that pay-per-view, since the title of the pay-per-view is Double or Nothing, and you got two titles on the line, winner takes all type of thing. So it matches up to the theme of the pay-per-view also, so that might be the best place to do it then, instead of All In my opinion. But I think the show overall was not bad. It did have some story, I will give them that. But it had some fluff too. This show felt like it could have been an hour show, and that's about it. They didn't need it to be 2 hours. This would work great for a 1 hour show, in my personal opinion. But anywho, let's go ahead and get right into the show. The show kick started off with the opener match between Jon Moxley and Mark Davis in a title eliminator match. This could have been left off the show. I don't understand why Jon Moxley had to face Mark Davis, especially when he's already interested in facing Takeshita in a rematch. This was absolutely ridiculous, made absolutely no sense. Again, filler. Jon Moxley obviously wins this match. I don't see Mark Davis ever challenging for a singles title. I see him as more of a tag team wrestler. And once I forgot Jake Something's new name on AEW, but yeah, Jake Something should be back once he is. I am in favor of them at least trying to get Mark Davis utilized as his singles competitor until I think his name is Jake Doyle. Yeah, I think that's what he's going by, Jake Doyle now. But I appreciate their efforts in trying to utilize him so he doesn't have to just sit on the shelf until Jake Doyle comes back. So I appreciate that from them, but I don't think it's working out too well for Mark Davis. He's not being placed in situations where he's got any chance of winning. And to be quite frank, he's really just works better in a tag team situation. At the end of the day, I don't see him as a successful, independent singles wrestler. So Jon Moxley ends up winning the match, though, but by a rear naked choke or a bulldog choke, and gets the tap out and the victory. Commentary runs down the rest of the lineup for tonight before we hear from Hangman Page after his match at Grand Slam Australia. Promises that if MJF makes it to Revolution, which was during the show before his title match occurred, as champ, he will ruin him. Look into his eyes, Max, and know he is telling the truth. He's going to end MJF. With that, we head back to ringside where the FTR cut their promo. Dax starts talking about the Young Bucks. He can barely get a word in as the crowd chants, "Shut the fuck up," which I don't blame him. I'm tired of Dax. I used to like Dax. I don't know what the fuck's happened to this dude. But he's turned out to be a real shithead, in my personal opinion. The way he acts on social media platforms with fans, and just the way he is personally, it's like as if he became a different person. He used to be a very humble and considerate guy. Now he just comes across to the regular audience, the fans, as if he's a fucking full-blown prick. I don't know if he's playing an act or he's just decided to be an asshole as a person. But either way, I'm not really appreciating it. I never seen Dax Hardwood as that kind of guy. But in the last couple of years, he has been a real fucking dickhead. Dax talks about how the Bucks were considered the best tag team in 2016 and how they even coined the term FTR, but now they sit second behind the greatest team of their generation. Of this generation, that is. Stokely starts talking on the mic to address the Bucks, shaking hands with Private Party and the Rascals. He reminds us that a year ago, the Bucks tried to run Private Party out of this company, chalking it up to the fakeness that he hates. He had a valid point there. Based on the way they were acting last year, it does not match up who they are now. Which is kind of odd that they just magically turned 180 here. Out of nowhere. It didn't gradually happen. It just happened overnight. He says the Bucks are the top of his hate list, with their parents and the locker room just under them. He continues running his mouth as the Bucks makes their way to the ring through the crowd, and they take out FTR with a pair of super kicks as Stoke pauses, realizing his fate as he tries to backpedal. The Young Bucks have none of it, and knocking him out of his wheelchair with a double super kick before taking the mic to declare their title shot for Revolution. So we got a third title shot that we already knew was going to take place anyway, so whatever. I mean, I don't know, but whatever. Big pop as the Bucks make their way up the ramp, and FTR check on Stoke. We get words from Brody King after Grand Slam Australia, who addresses being this close to winning the world title as the live crowd chant that chant. King promises to get back into the title hunt, and he's looking for a fight. Whew. Anyway, we head back to ringside for our next bout between four ladies for the AEW TBS Women's Championship. Willow Nightingale, Megan Bayne, Marina Shafir, and Mina Shirakawa. This is fucking ridiculous. Mina Shirakawa ends up losing this match by a roll-up pinfall. That's all we got. This was another match that could have been saved for, like, fucking Collision. I honestly don't understand how these ladies get the opportunity to challenge for the TBS Women's Championship out of the clear blue when none of them really earned it to begin with. Megan Bayne was competing in tag team wrestling. Marina Shafir was competing in tag team wrestling. Marina Shafir was also involved with Toni Storm and Orange Cassidy and Willa Yuta. So, I mean, I don't know, man. That made absolutely no sense to have Marina Shafir in this. Megan Bayne being in this makes no sense. She was in tag team wrestling for the women's titles, women tag team titles. The only person, I mean, no, really, nobody deserves to have this shot. Mina Shirakawa has been not really winning anything. Unless she's winning matches on Collision I don't know about because I don't watch Collision, but this match was just filler. That's all it was. This was a meaningless match that didn't need to be there. So after the match is over, Willow celebrates as Megan and Marina retreat up the ramp. We also get a look back at Grand Slam Australia culminating in MJF retaining his world title in the main event, which was a fun show. I enjoyed sitting through that. Definitely a lot better than fucking SmackDown was, and I'm not going to be covering SmackDown this Friday. If I have the money, I am definitely checking out House of Glory on Triller TV, and I may be paying for that to watch it because I'd rather watch that than SmackDown at this point. MJF's going to be on that card, which is kind of interesting, seeing an AEW top-tier promotional champion performing on an indie show, which is not too common in pro wrestling days. Hopefully, Tony Khan's smart, and he got paid for them using MJF's services on this match, and that he paid, MJF got, based on what he's getting paid, Tony Khan's making a little extra money off of the money he put in towards MJF. That's just kind of where I would go with that, with a contract like that, if he's being utilized on other indie shows, because there is a risk involved with that. He could get injured or what have you, which is kind of a problem. So, just my thoughts on that. We head back to ringside as Hangman Adam Page makes his way to the ring. Commentary talks about there being no physicality allowed tonight. Ahead of the world title match at Revolution, Page enters the ring and MJF makes his way down to the ring as well. MJF starts talking on the mic. He starts running down Hangman, insisting that Page isn't as good as these fans make him out to be, and he claims that he deserves to be the main character of AEW over Page. He hates the crowd chanting cowboy shit whenever Page walks around. What he hates most is that Paige holds 2 wins over him, and it makes him sick to his stomach, makes him want to puke, but insists that Hangman is just a lucky shot, and thinks that he's out of bullets. He sees something the fans can't. He can smell it. He can see it in Adam's eyes. Something's off about him. He can't work out why. He's all up in his own head. Basically, he's worried about his 2 boyfriends, Kenny Omega and Swerve Strickland, fighting each other. Or because he's climbed the mountain to be world champion twice, and both times he's crumbled under the pressure. Well, I'm sorry to break it to you, MJF, so did you, at least once with your first reign, and eventually you're going to lose the second time. So, quite frankly, everybody's going to eventually lose. So, crumbling under the pressure, I don't know, is really an appropriate word, not to mention he got screwed in that steel cage match thanks to Hook. So, which, by the way, he was on the show tonight saying that he's the new leader of the Ops, and he's basically looking for recruits. Maybe Adam thinks winning the title a 3rd time might finally help him. But this is not the same man MJF faced last year. No, it's not. Because he's more focused, more driven, and looks like the old MJF when he won his first world title, in my personal opinion. So, yeah, definitely Hangman Page is facing a different MJF. This is the version we deserved when he came back last year, but didn't get it. Page is a lucky shot, but MJF thinks he's all out of bullets. March 15th, MJF's birthday. He looks forward to ending the myth of the Hangman Page story and his cowboy shit. This gets the chance from fans before Page speaks up now. Page talks about the people carrying him to winning the world title twice. That is funny. Him using the fans to say they prepped him up to winning the world title twice. When MJF doesn't win the world title with anyone's help, he does it completely, well, he technically, no, he did win the world title. No, the first time he won the world title, he won it by screwing Jon Moxley over with William Regal's help. But who's counting, right? Still, I mean, he had some good matches under his first run as world champion, and the match he had against Brody King was pretty damn good too. Page talks about the people carrying it. He runs down MJF for picking his shot at World's End to take the title to collect the spoils of greater men. Max says that he hated Adam Page, but Page hates MJF more. It's not because of the years of lying, cheating, and depravity. It's because when Adam looks at MJF, he has to admit he has never met someone more like Page. Oh, God. How the fuck could you see yourself as the exact same person is beyond me. But anyway, he says that all the desperation he sees out of MJF, he is no better than that, and he hates it. As much as everyone wants the title, Max and Page have always needed it. At Revolution, Page wants to end this for good. Forever, actually. He thinks Max knows that this can't just be a normal wrestling match, can it? So why don't MJF think about a stipulation and pitch it? Because he has always known what this match should be, so once they decide, they should let the people decide what this match should be. MJF is hearing the people chant Texas Death Match, and MJF tells the fans to shut the hell up. He tells the fans to shut up, you fucking rednecks, or some shit like that. But if Page thinks we're doing anything but a regular match, a regular, normal, real wrestling match for Max's world title, Page is out of his mind. Page says that he figured Max would say that because he's a coward. But if he agrees to this, he will give up or give the champ something in return. If he'll agree, Page will give him his word. All of these people, his word as well, that if he doesn't win this championship, then he will never challenge for the AEW World Championship as long as he lives. And Max says Page may have himself a deal, but unlike the Cowboy, he doesn't shoot first and ask questions later, so he'll need a week to think it over. And Page tells him to think it over because he knows what he wants. Hangman MJF Revolution Texas Death Match. And he drops the microphone, leaving the ring as the music hits, and MJF looks nervous or even worried in the ring as we cut away. Now, my thoughts on this is kind of stupid. Why would you put Hangman Page, clearly Hangman Page, unless he's retiring at a lot sooner than what we all think he's going to retire, because I think Hangman Page is like in his early to mid-30s. Let me just check this out real quick, because this is crazy that they're even putting this out there. Like, he's getting the Cody Rhodes treatment here, which I'm not too fond of, unless he's really, like, coming to the end of his career. Hangman Page is 34 years old. He's got plenty of years left on him. Unless he's got a serious injury that we don't know about, I clearly doubt he's retiring before he's 40. Because a lot of these guys last for a while. So my personal opinion, I think Hangman Page, I kind of question this move here. I don't know what's going on. I can't make sense of it as to why they would go this direction. Now, if they wanted to say that he would never get a title shot as long as MJF is champion, then I wouldn't be too worried about this. But this gets me wondering, what the fuck? Hangman Page is going to give up his opportunity to ever challenge for the World Championship as long as he wrestles in AEW? Or as long as he lives, per se? I mean, unless they do a storyline where his character dies and he becomes something else. Which would be kind of a interesting way of going to get him out of the stipulation, because he said he would not challenge for the world title for as long as he lived. Now, if they did a storyline where he actually dies and then is brought back to life like he's the fucking Undertaker, I mean, I guess that could work, but then again, that'd be a little over the top and kind of copying a character that already existed and is a fucking legend. So, I don't know. It honestly doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Maybe MJF counteracts that and says, as long as I'm champion, I don't want to go ahead and steal away. He could go ahead and maybe start showing some respect. That he would even throw himself out there and he'd be like, no, you know what? As long as I'm champion, you can never challenge me. I don't care that you can never challenge for the title ever again if I'm not champion. But then again, I'll be champion for the rest of my life until I retire. That's the mentality he's going to have, of course. But I don't know, man. I just don't like the move of doing the same thing they did with Cody Rhodes, because that didn't work out in Cody's favor. He was basically he was basically restricted from ever winning a world title ever again. And he settled down for a TNT championship, which was considered at that point in time when he was the champion a secondary world title, technically, and a workhorse title. But unfortunately, TNT title ain't much of anything anymore. So I don't quite understand the move here unless Hangman's winning the damn title, which I don't want to see that either. I don't want to see Hangman out of the title picture altogether just so MJF can win to retain the title either. So this is kind of a weird fucking situation here. Backstage, we hear from Mox and Death Riders. And Mox calls the group Coyotes because they are survivors. Pac says that Don Callis' family are not like the Death Riders before challenging them to a match for Collision. Garcia says family is not just some title for them. Mox wraps up by calling out Takeshita for the Continental Championship, which later on I think Excalibur messed up and called it the Intercontinental Championship. I might have misheard, possibly, because I mean Continental, Intercontinental, they're basically the same. The only thing missing is Inter. So I might have misheard him, but it did sound to me like he said Intercontinental title match. When they posted the graphic in the corner of the screen later on in the show, so I'm not quite sure on that one. Might be wrong about that, but hopefully I am, because that is a huge botch by commentary by Excalibur, but that wouldn't be the first, I don't think. So he says no time limit. He gets Takeshita, or Takeshita gets him. Whatever it takes to determine a winner. Okay, great. Next, we get the conglomeration. This has Orange Cassidy and Tomohiro Ishii versus Gabe Kidd and Clark Connors. This actually had a point to be on the show because of Darby Allin's continuation rivalry with Gabe Kidd and Clark Connors, honestly. Because Clark Connors had the assistance to Gabe Kidd of doing what they did to him out in the desert in Las Vegas. So it does make a lot of sense why this happened on the show tonight, which I'm totally down for. So it made perfect sense. Orange Cassidy and Ishii win the match. The pair actually celebrate in the middle of the ring, and then we move on to the next segment. So Don Callis' family gets back to beating up random dudes as Callis accepts the challenge for Mox and Takeshita at Revolution. Okada addresses being here because he's a champion before hyping up the uncrowned world champion Andrade El Idolo, which I thought they were going to have Claudio Castagnoli defend his CMLL world title against Andrade. Instead, Josh Alexander is the guy getting the shot on Collision. I guess any which way possible to sell a show with no viewership. And it's on a Saturday, the worst fucking day of the week to show a wrestling show when there is all kinds of sports going on, especially UFC and boxing, which there are plenty of people going to watch boxing and UFC. So, good luck with that. But I would not air a wrestling show on a Saturday. Not to mention there's basketball, college basketball, and during the regular season of college and pro football, you got that to attend to between Saturdays and Sundays. So, good luck with that. Because people will tune in over that shit. And so will I, outside of a major pay-per-view event that takes place that I'm truly interested in. So, unless it's a pay-per-view event on a weekend, I have no interest in watching wrestling, because there ain't no fucking point in it. Absolutely none. Anyway, let's move on here. We then get a vignette from Hook, who was appointed the new boss of the Ops in light of Samoa Joe's injury. Not really much of a Ops anymore outside of Shibata and Hook. He talks about the group recruiting handling the domestic side while Shibata heads to Japan to handle international matters. I didn't know they were hitmen. Are they assigned missions to go after a target and kill it? Like, what the fuck are we doing? International matters. What the fuck is this shit? Anyway, we get the Brawling Birds with Alex Windsor and Jamie Hayter against the Becca, spelled B3CCA, and Vivia Van. Another filler match, folks. I'm pretty sure you know who won this match. Alex Windsor and Jamie Hayter. A fluff match. that nobody fucking gives a shit about. Pair celebrate in the middle of the ring, and then we cut away, and backstage we hear from Chris Statlander and the returning Thunder Rosa for the 50 millionth time, who pops once in a blue moon. Kind of like, well, not really like a period, because a period appears every month for women's menstrual cycles. She's more like a pimple that appears once in a while. That's better terminology of appearing and popping out of nowhere. Anyway, the two addresses the Triangle of Madness before Rosa offers to go after Tekla in Stat's place due to the potential injury coming out of the title match last week. We then head back to ringside as Kevin Knight is accompanied by Speedball Mike Bailey on their way to the ring. They get a match with, Kevin Knight gets a match with Beast Mortos. Oh, God. The jobber of all jobber of luchadors. I wonder if he's a jobber in CMLL, if that's where he works besides AEW. But yes, he actually wins this match. Obviously, Kevin Knight. Again, fluff. Don't know why this match is taking place on my screen. And they don't really explain why. I mean, they want to throw random matches in. Have a fucking ranking system to have a reason. Post a ranking graphic of the division that they're in and have a fucking match. Giving it reason why it's happening on the show, folks. Try taking the concept of MMA and boxing and apply it to wrestling when you're kind of, having issues with telling a story. At least you give some kind of basic story instead of nothing. Just throwing random shit on the screen for a fucking filler ain't gonna do shit for nobody. God almighty, this company's retarded. But anyway, let's move on with this load of shit. Because like I said, there was some good things on this show, but there was also bullshit on this show. Will Ospreay wants to show that AEW isn't where the best wrestle, it's where the Billy Goat wrestles. The Billy Goat. Oh, God. I don't know what Billy stands for. I know what GOAT stands for. It's the greatest of all time. That's what that stands for. Billy. Oh, Billy! I don't know what that implies. I mean, I have no idea. Anyway, backstage, the Demand addresses the World Trios champions as they challenge Jet Set Rodeo. God almighty, what a fucked up name. Can they just go with Hangman Page and Jet Speed as the Trios tag team champions? They gotta go with Jet Set Rodeo. God, that sounds like a fucking poor, pathetic name for a football team or some shit. That would never get over in pro sports. Ever. In any sport for that matter. Basketball, football, baseball. I don't give a shit what. That would be a terrible name for a fucking sports team. Jesus Christ. So they stop when they see a knife on the door of their dressing room. Why was there I missed this part. I don't know where the fuck that occurred, but I might want to go back and check that out to see if that actually happened, because I missed all that. So they chill out before stepping into the room. With that, there's been enough talk. It's time for the main event. So we have our main event, Kenny Omega, Swerve Strickland. I've already stated this. This was an excellent matchup. Great television match. Would have been pay-per-view quality matchup in my personal opinion. And good action by both of these guys. I would have been really shocked if Kenny Omega would have won. I mean, that would be absolute shitting on Swerve when he's going to be there and Kenny ain't. So they made the right decision, though. This match was fun as shit. Great main event. good action overall with these two guys. I hope we see a rematch at some point. Maybe like an I Quit match or something like that. Hopefully. I'm not gonna, go ahead and think that this company can articulate an actual story between these two outside of just rinse and repeat bullshit. But yeah, he goes ahead, ends up hurting Kenny Omega after the match is over. Kenny accidentally hit the female referee that was in the match. She got hurt in the middle of this match with a knee to the skull, I believe. Hopefully she was just selling that. That wasn't legitimately real. Because if it was, man, that had to fucking hurt for her. But yeah, after the match was over, he started strangulating Kenny Omega with a chain. Similar to what Hangman Page did to Jon Moxley at All In last year. And then he goes ahead and does a questionable move that I personally did not agree with this spot through the table. I thought it was kind of dangerous. I think Kenny Omega's fine, though. He landed flat on his back with his neck kind of like flat too, so it didn't really... hopefully it didn't put a lot of weight on his neck when he landed on the table and when the table broke and everything. And everything went according to plan and nothing bad happened out of this spot. But they could have done a better move than that. That would have been a lot safer going through a table to kind of like writing Kenny Omega off. They could have also strangled him from the chain and he could have like turned color, something like that, make him look like he was knocked out and have like Swerve Strickland screaming in his face and saying, I'm the most dangerous man in AEW. I've proved that, and I needed this, and blah, 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 like he was saying at the end of the show. This was kind of a cliffhanger, too, because he was saying, I needed this. Everybody was kind of stunned why he had to go this far into hurting Kenny Omega. He won the match, so what more did he need to prove type of thing. So I kind of liked the ending. It did give us a cliffhanger, which most of the time in AEW, we never get those. Oh shit, we never get that in WWE ever anymore. WWE used to do cliffhangers left and right week after week almost. Now they don't fucking do that at all in the last 10 to 15 years or so. Who the fuck knows how many years they haven't done shit like that. But I'll be quite frank with you guys. This show was not bad, but again, like I said, a lot of these matches were fluff to fill in time because they just didn't have nothing to fill the show with. If this show was an hour show, it would have been perfectly fine. I think they had enough story for an hour show that would have made it picture perfect, but the 2 hours was, I just think they didn't have enough to make this a excellent show. So that's where I kind of like say this wasn't the best show in the world, but it looked like they tried to put some effort into it, but like I said, they used the matches as filler to fill in the gaps where they didn't have much to tell when it comes to story. So, I mean, it is what it is. This is AEW. WWE ain't any better. They're probably possibly a little bit worse than AEW at this point in time. I mean, WWE was kind of like, trending, like, doing some good stuff that got my feelings towards them a lot better than AEW, and now it's kind of switched. AEW's giving us some good matches. We're getting some... this episode had the most story I've seen in a long while. And that's pretty much it, man. I mean, at least this show is a lot better than Monday Night Raw. Raw was fucking shit this past Monday. It's been shit the last couple of months. I don't know what the fuck's happened, but damn, it sucks heavily. But anyway, guys, at this time, you know what to do. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. Hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed to the channel. And leave a comment down below. I'll definitely get back to you on that. Thank you guys very much for watching. Have a great night, guys. Bye.